You are watching the Dark Fantastic Network.
I think where Anthony Hickox's skills lie is in making $1 million look like $7 million. He makes great-looking pictures. Clive Barker. In the late 1980s and throughout the 1990s, true fans of the horror genre knew that, if the VHS cover had the words, "Directed by Anthony Hickox," then they were in for a treat. Hickox, the man behind a number of genre favorites, was born on the 30th of January 1959 in Hampstead, London. He came from filmmaking royalty, being the eldest son of director Douglas Hickox, an Academy Award-winning editor, and V. Coates. He was also a great-nephew of J. Arthur Rank, head of the Rank organization. At first, Hickox didn't really consider pursuing the family business seriously, working as a club promoter in London, where he raised money for his short film, Rockabye Baby, which English producer Michael White, of Rocky Horror Show and Monty Python fame, saw, finding it impressive enough to give Hickox a plane ticket to Los Angeles, saying, "Don't come back until you've made a movie." Upon arrival in LA in 1986, Hickox wrote his first horror feature, and using his immense talent as a salesman, convinced Vestron to finance the movie. The result was Waxwork, budgeted at $3.5 million, and earning more than $10 million on first release. Waxwork, released in 1988, is about a group of college students who stumble upon a waxworks in the suburbs of LA, operated by an evil mastermind who fills his venue with figures of classic monsters from movies and legends, which come to life to kill anyone who comes for a closer look. Hickox directed Waxwork with great panache, moving briskly from one horror set piece to the next, and filling the film with what would later become Hickox's trademark tongue-in-cheek humor, which lovingly poked fun at the genre, without skimping on horror or style. Over the years, Waxwork would become a massive hit on cable and video, and a beloved cult classic. Hickox followed the success of Waxwork with a more ambitious project, the horror comedy western, Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat, which Hickox also co-wrote. The film would prove to be less successful, mainly due to its overly quirky approach and lack of scares, and also due to lack of proper distribution by Vestron, who released the film straight to VHS, with little fanfare. But, Sundown, is one of Hickox's quirkiest efforts, with plenty of style and a dash of wit, and, over the years, would also prove to be a minor cult classic. Hickox then returned to the world of Waxwork, with Waxwork 2, Lost in Time, released in 1992. Despite having a smaller budget, Waxwork 2 was even more ambitious and sprawling than the original, spoofing everything from Universal monsters, to the Alien movies, to classic haunted house pictures, to Godzilla. And although it wasn't as polished and focused as the original, it is tremendously entertaining, with style to spare, and one hell of an ending. There were plans for Waxwork 3, but the sequel never materialized. Hickox said, they wanted to do Waxwork 3 and it was going to be a kind of an ongoing, straight-to-video type story. But, if it wasn't going to continue as a film, it was going to be a comic book, where we were going to do one every 6 months, make him cheap and fun, and have these recurring characters. But then, something changed and it didn't happen. It was then that Hickox went on to make what became his most well-known and financially successful film. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, released in 1992, remains the most financially successful entry in the franchise. With its bravura visuals, large-scale mayhem, over-the-top gore, and exciting ending, Hellraiser 3 propelled the series into the mainstream, and turned Pinhead into a pop culture phenomenon. The film had a somewhat troubled production, however, as Hickox came on board after Tony Randall, the director of the previous entry in the franchise, abruptly left the film in pre-production due to creative differences. Hickox took over, and managed to deliver the film on time. But best-selling author, Clive Barker, the creator of the franchise, wasn't entirely pleased with Hickox's final cut, and decided to revise the film. Barker said, Miramax, the distributor of the film, came to me with the picture, said it was a little thin and asked if we could make it better. I said, there's a really good movie in there. We need to spend more money, and they were up for spending $500,000 if we could shoot something in 3 or 4 days. So we did all the bondage stuff and the weird plant thing and the skin-sucking special effects. Accounts differ about how much Barker was involved in reshaping the film, but the final product bears the unmistakable stamp of Hickox's filmmaking throughout, from the deep focus cinematography, to the immersive sound design, to the frenetic set pieces. Hickox then directed Full Eclipse for HBO. Greatly influenced by the movies of John Woo and the X-Men comic books, Full Eclipse, a thrilling, over-the-top, horror action film, proved to be a smash hit for the cable channel, and spawned the Friday night action slot on HBO, which lasted for over 5 years, and to which Hickox made several more contributions. Hickox then directed another genre favorite, Warlock, The Armageddon, a sequel to the cult favorite, Warlock, released in 1988 and directed by Steve Miner. Released in the summer of 1993, Warlock, The Armageddon, again proved that Hickox was growing as a stylist, producing another over-the-top, occasionally terrifying, and terrifically entertaining horror film. With a dash of sardonic wit, yet without his trademark tongue-in-cheek humor, Warlock, The Armageddon, is arguably one of Hickox's most ambitious films, and the one-of-a-kind, tour de force ending proves it. Warlock, The Armageddon, like most of Hickox's work in the 1980s and early 1990s, proved to be a hit, and even spawned a popular video game, and a belated sequel released in 1999. Hickox then shifted gears, and started trying his hand, with varying degrees of success, at working in other genres, directing Payback, a stylish noir thriller in the tradition of James M. Cain, released in 1995, and the beguiling psychosexual mystery, Jill Rips, starring Dolph Lundgren, and released in 2000. His foray into other genres continued, leading him to work with Natasha McElhone and William Hurt on Contaminated Man, Katherine Heigl and Stephen Moyer, in Paramount's feature-length adaptation of the Prince Valiant comic strip, Steven Seagal, in Submerged, and comedian Eddie Griffin, in Blast, which made over $20 million via a direct-to-blockbuster release. These were followed by British horror movie Knife Edge, with Hugh Bonneville. But as the independent film industry changed, VHS disappearing, and DVD getting replaced by streaming, Hickox, like many other horror filmmakers of his generation, found himself struggling in the midst of an ever-shifting market. And after 29 movies, Hickox decided to take a break from directing, and concentrate on screenwriting, writing scripts for renowned producers like Ed Pressman, Matt Vaughn, and Avi Lerner. In 2023, Anthony Hickox passed away, at the age of 64, leaving behind him a legacy of genre films that have become some of the most stylish, beloved, and fun movies to come out of the 1980s and 90s.